Hi everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you're new, my name is Gracie Gallagher, and today we will be continuing computer literacy, following through with the rest of the chapters on the course, which we will get into. Alright, I did make another general overview of what we will be covering. So in today's video we will be covering chapters 8 through 14. Chapter 8 is about app development, Chapter 9 is about web development, Chapter 10 is about networking, Chapter 11 is about digital communication, Chapter 12 is about digital transformation, Chapter 13 is about databases, and then Chapter 14 is about digital ethics and lifestyle. Going right along into Chapter 8, which is all about app development, I have developmental roles. Developmental roles cover the user-level interactions with software and the professional process of creating it. Underneath developmental roles are development itself and programmer. Development is basically just the process of creating apps from the idea stage to distribution. It includes representatives of each department in which the Now I'm going to be talking about developer guidelines. Um, Basically, they are group activities that are put into phases. So it'd be like your planning, your analysis, design, um, actually implementing that stuff, security, and then obviously support. Um, it involves users for whom the program is being developed. So like customers, fellow employees, data entries and accountants, things like that. So how do you actually start development? The first thing you're going to want to do is write a formal project request, which is just the request that's the first item of documentation. If you don't know what documentation is, it's basically just a collection and summary of the data, information, and deliverables, and it should occur during all phases. It should reflect decisions, approvals, and notes. And lastly, I have a deliverable. Basically, it's just any moving into the software development lifecycle. The abbreviation for that would be SDLC. It's basically just the set of activities required to build a program. And I did provide a little visual. Um, it just, I know it helps me a lot, so I figured it would be a helpful little tip to give when talking about software development life cycles. So you'd have your planning, your defining, designing, building, testing, and deploying. Moving into Chapter 9, covering web development, I have HTMLs, which are just the hypertext markup language. That's what that would stand for. And they specify the content of a web page. It would be like a collection of symbols or tags, things like that. Then I have the CSS, which is the cascading style sheets. They specify the format and appearance of content. And lastly, I have JavaScripts. They're basically Since we're obviously talking about web development, I did want to cover websites. There were two different kinds of website styles that were brought up throughout this chapter specifically, which would be static and dynamic websites. Static websites essentially just provides context that is unlikely to change frequency, and then dynamic websites provide context with changes when you interact with it, or it is unique to each user. I did have a little note that dynamic websites. So how do you actually use a website builder? The first thing that you would want to do is sign up for the service of your choice. Then you would select a template or design that you want to use for your desired information, whatever you have to include for that. And then you would choose a domain name. you would set up your SEO and site options. SEO just means search engine optimization, so that's what that stands for. And then the last thing you would want to do is just customize the design. Moving into networking, which is chapter 10, um, how a network operates. So if you didn't know the basic terminology for network, it's basically just a system of two or more devices that can be linked by wires, cables, wireless signals, or telecommunication systems. Um, and they do require hardware and software. Elements of a network would be, I do have three different types of network devices listed here. We have the NIC, which is just a network interface card. It's essentially just a circuit board that connects a computer to a network. They're often internal to the device, so it'd be like wired or wireless. And then a cable modem. They use cable TV for a connection. And I do have a little illustration of what a cable modem looks like down here. Moving into different network types, there's a wired network, which basically sends signals and data through cables. A wireless network sends signals through airwaves. An intranetwork provides network for use by authorized individuals. An extra network allows outsiders to access some of a company's network resources. A VPN, which is just a virtual private network, is a private secure path. Moving into chapter 11, we will be discussing digital communication. Um, what is digital communication? It's basically just the alteration of data, instructions, and or information from one computer or mobile device. Um, it happens often through the internet. You could send electronic messages, online conferencing, and it would include social media and networking as well. So I did provide some types of digital communication that most, if not all of you are familiar with. If you're not, I will be covering the definitions for these things as well. Moving on to electronic messaging, it's just technology for communicating with others. You have your text messaging, which is sending short text messages, usually over cellular networks using mobile devices. Chatting is just holding real-time to type conversations through. I did provide some tools for social networking. It would include a profile, your friends, extended contacts, likes, and activity streams. Profiles are just information about your online identity. Your friends would just be like contacts. Extended friends are friends of your friends. Um, a like is just to show appreciation for somebody's post. If you like it, you know you're going to interact with it. And then lastly, I have, now we are into chapter 12, which is digital transformation. What is digital transformation? It is just the combination of digital technologies. It can be enabled by emerging technologies together. It would be like your business activities, your organizational cultures, and your customer experiences, things like that. So there were two different types of cloud computing in this chapter, private and public, and I do have an illustration to kind of make it easier for you to understand as you're following along. Um, if you don't know what cloud computing is, in general it just refers to providing and using technology tools via the internet. So it would be like your software and your storage. A private cloud is cloud technologies that are run on your own hardware without using the internet. I did give some different examples of cloud models. The first one listed is distributed computing, which is just a way of designing a system so various components run on multiple computers, but they work together as a single system. As a service is just a function or resource provided through the cloud service. So an example would be firewall. Being a service would be FWAAS, and then data. Moving into chapter 13, which covers databases. Um, the importance of databases. They are basically essential for most organizations. They organize data, make it accessible, and keep things safe. They also allow you to efficiently collect, access, retrieve, and create reports with data itself. I did provide three different examples of databases. Moving right along, I have database management systems. It's essentially just software used to create databases and manipulate data. Relational DMBS would be your Microsoft Access, your Oracle database. The list goes on and on with those. But those are just two different examples of a relational DMBS. Um, Database as a Service, or BDAAS. And our last chapter we will be covering today is chapter 14, which is about digital ethics in lifestyle. What are digital ethics? Essentially, it's just the set of legal and moral guidelines that govern the use of technology. And then digital citizenship is the ethical, legal, and productive use of technology today. People who have digital citizenship are responsible for educating themselves about their obligations and rights. It's essentially just. So how do you safeguard your information? You would use something called a PII, which is a personally identifiable information platform. It's essentially just anything that can be used to uncover your identity. So it'd be like your social security number, an email address, phone number, personal driver's license number, and your credit card number, things like that. Things that are specifically personal to you that nobody else would have the same thing. I have SEO practices. SEO just stands for search engine optimization. Essentially, it is just the use of tools to allow search engines to find or index a specific website. There were two different types of practices. We have ethical and unethical, which you can see in the bolded list. Um, Ethical would be like your algorithms, your target keywords, and your meta tags. Um, Algorithms are just a. And that covers all 14 modules on computer literacy. I hope that you have gained a more clear and better understanding of computer literacy as a whole and all of the components that go into it. I know it is a lot to maintain inside of your mind, but um, I did provide the illustrations and things, which I hope were very helpful because they were helpful for me. I learned a lot from this experience, even as I created this, and I'm just hoping that I was able to reciprocate that with the audience.